Good morning, students. Today I am going to teach you the 7th chapter of your supplementary reader book, and the name of the topic is the open window. Students, in this chapter we will study that frontal nuttal has bad nerves. Bad nerve means mental pressure. He is mentally upset, and that's why he is sent to the countryside to meet the family friends. And when he goes to the countryside, there he meets a young lady of 15 years who tells him a casualty that is related to the open window. So, what is in this story? To know this, let's start the book. Just open your book at page number 55 and concentrate your mind in your book. Okay? See the book. My aunt will be down presently, Mr. Nuttal said, a very self-possessed young lady of 15. In the meantime, you must try and put up with me. A very confident lady of 15 years. A very self-possessed means calm and confident lady of 15 said to Mr. Nuttal that her aunt will be down very soon, and in the meantime he must try to endure with her. He must try to bear with her, means he will have to listen to that young lady. Frontal nuttal endeavored to say something which should duly flatter the needs of the moment without unduly discounting the aunt that was to come. Frontal nuttal tried to say something. Endeavored means tried. He tried to say something which should completely please the needs at the moment, but without making less important of the arrival of the aunt. Frontal nuttal tried to say something which should completely please the needs at the moment without making less important of the arrival of the aunt that was about to come. That was means the lady was absent, the aunt was absent, the niece was present there. And frontal nuttal tried to say something that should completely make happy to the niece at that moment, but he did not want to make the arrival of the aunt less important. Okay? Privately, he doubted more than ever whether these formal visits of a succession of total strangers would do much towards helping the nerve cure which he was supposed to be undergoing. Privately, he doubted, but more than ever whether the formal visits of a succession means one coming after the other, means these visits of total strangers would do much towards helping the nerve cure which he was supposed to be undergoing. He was suffering from bad nerves and he was sent here for curing his disease, but he doubted whether the formal visits of such several strangers would help him, would do much towards helping the nerve cure. He had the doubt about this thing. I know how it will be, his sister had said when he was preparing to migrate to his rural retreat. The young lady of 15 means the niece. He said that I know how it will be. I know how the bad nerve will be cured. His sisters had said when he was preparing to migrate to this rural retreat. She said that Frampton's sister, he had said when he was preparing to come to the countryside for the place of rest, you will bury yourself down there and not to speak to a living soul, and your nerves will be worse than ever from walking. She said that if you leave alone yourself down and you will not speak to a living soul, in that situation your nerves will be worse than even from worry. If you do not talk to anybody, if you live alone and do not talk to anybody in this situation, in this condition, your nerves will be worse than even from worry. I shall just give you letters of introductions to all the people I know there. She said, Denise said that she would give him the letters of introductions of the people that she knew. Some of them, as far as I can remember, were quite nice, and she also told that some persons among them, as far as I can remember, were quite nice, were very good. Now see page number 56. Frampton wondered whether Mrs. Sappleton, the lady to whom he was presenting one of the letters of introduction, came into the nice division. Frampton wondered whether Mrs. Sappleton is the name of the aunt. The lady to whom he was about to give the letters of introduction, she came into the nice category. Do you know many of the people around here? Asked the niece when she judged that they had sufficient silent communion. When the niece judged that they had the sufficient silent togetherness, means they were sitting together and they were not talking anything. When she judged this, that they had the sufficient silent togetherness, means they were not talking for a long time, then she asked if he knew many of people around there. He asked Frampton Little if he knew many of the people around that place. Hardly a soul, said Frampton. My sister was staying here some 4 years ago and she gave me letters of introduction to some of the people here. Frampton replied that hardly he knew a single person. He further added that his sister was staying there for 4 years ago, and she had given him letters of introductions to some of people there. Means Frampton's sisters was living there before 4 years ago. Frampton's sisters was living at that place 4 years ago, and she had given letters of introduction to some of the persons to whom she was knowing. He made the last statement in a tone of distinct regret, and when he said this, the last tone of that person, of Frampton, was full of regretness. Then you know practically nothing about my aunt, pursued the self-possessed young lady. Then the niece, the young lady, she continued to ask. She asked then, Frampton, no, practically nothing about her aunt. Only her name and address, admitted the caller. Frampton admitted that only he knew the name and address of her aunt. He was wondering whether Mrs. Sappleton was in the married or widow state, and undefinable something about the room seemed to suggest masculine habitation. He was surprising whether Mrs. Sappleton was married or widow, whether she was married or widowed or in widowed state, means whether she was married or widowed. And undefinable, that cannot be defined. And undefinable something about the room seemed to suggest masculine habitation, means the room was suggesting that it belonged to a man. It seemed to Frampton Nuttall that the room belonged to a person, a man. Her great tragedy happened just 3 years ago, said the child. That would be since your sister's time. The niece said that her great misfortune happened just 3 years ago when your sister was living here. Her tragedy? Asked Frampton. Somehow in this restful country spot, tragedy seemed out of place. Frampton asked tragedy, her tragedy, because he thought that in this restful country spot, tragedy seemed out of place. You may wonder why we keep that window wide open on an October afternoon, said the niece, indicating a large French window that opened onto a lawn. The niece indicated towards a large French window that had opened onto a lawn, and she said that you may wonder why we keep that window wide open on an October afternoon. It is quite warm for the time of the year, said Frampton, but has that window got anything to do with the tragedy? Frampton said that it was quite warm for the time of the year, but he asked what is the connection, what is the relation with the tragedy, what is the relation, what is the connection of the tragedy with that open window? Out through that window, 3 years ago to a day, her husband and her 2 young brothers went off for their day's shooting. The niece explained that on through that window, 3 years ago on a day, her husband, means the aunt's husband, and her 2 young brothers went off for their day's shooting through that window. They never came back, and after that, they never came. In crossing to the moor, to their favorite shooting ground, they were all 3 engulfed in a treacherous piece of bog, treacherous, very dangerous, and bog, spongy ground. She told that all the 3 persons, they were crossing the moor, they were crossing the grassland, and they were going towards their favorite shooting ground, and they all were engulfed, surrounded in a dangerous piece of spongy ground. And after that, they never came back. It had been that dreadful wet summer, you know, and places that were safe in other years gave way suddenly without warning. And she also said that the places that were very safe in other years and they gave way suddenly without warning, means the places that were supposed to be safe and they did not give any warning, and all the 3 persons engulfed in that bog. Their bodies were never recovered, means their bodies were never be found. That was the dreadful part of it, and this is the very dangerous, this is the very tragical part of it. Here, the child's voice lost its self-possessed note and became faltering. Here, the child's voice lost its self-possessed note and became falteringly human. And explaining the incident, the child's voice lost its confidence and it became hesitant. Poor aunt always thinks that they would come back someday, they and the little brown spaniel that was lost with them, and walk in at that window just as they used to do. She told that poor aunts always thought that they would come back someday. And they and the little brown spaniel dog that was lost with all the three persons, they would come that window as they used to do. They all would come through that window as they used to do. That is why the window is kept open every evening till it is quite dusk. And this is the reason the window is left open, it kept open every evening till it is quite dusk. Poor dear aunt, she has often told me how they went out, her husband with his white waterproof coat over his arm, and Ronnie, her youngest brother, singing Bertie, why do you bound? The niece told that her aunt often told her how all the three persons went out. Her husband, he had taken a white waterproof coat over his arm, and Ronnie, the youngest brother of her aunt, he was singing Bertie, why do you bound? Bound means jump. Why do you jump? As he always did to tease her. He used to tease her because she said it got on her nerves, because her aunt said that his singing got on, his singing increased her tension, her nerves. Do you know, sometimes on still quiet evening like this, the niece said, hey, do you know, sometimes on this still quiet evening like this, when this is the time of evening and it is quite still, at that time I almost get a creepy feeling means shivering sensation, that they will all walk in through that window. The niece said that sometimes at the time of evening, when there is too much silence and quietness, at that time I almost get a shivering sensation that all the persons, they would all walk through that window. Okay, students, first part of this chapter is completed. I have written some word meanings here, and some word meanings have been given in your book also. So note down all the word meanings in your notebook. I will provide the answers of this part, and the remaining part will be taught the next. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.